Hello and a welcome to Two Beards, a podcast in Wrexham AFC. Adrian, mate, how are you going?
Yeah, I'm pumped, mate. I know it's only some friendlies, but the USA tour is well and truly underway, and
Oh,
I am so pumped for some football, my friend.
can you feel it in your bones?
Can you feel it? Don't dox us. Can you feel it? Don't DMCA us. Yeah, continue.
Yes, I'm pumped, especially because it's what now? It's 10 to 7 in the evening here as we're recording, and in about 12 hours time we will get to watch this go live. So it'll be a big difference not waking up at like 2, 3 a.m. just to watch a game. So
Yeah, it's not
there's
so bad.
that.
I think it's a yeah, I mean for me it's 9 a.m. So it'll be what, 7:30 for you?
Yeah, 7:30 in the morning. So
Yeah,
we're
so
gonna
I mean, I'll take that. I start work at actually I start work at 8:30. So what I might do is just keep the projector on next to my laptop and while I'm with clients, just casually dart my eyes to the scores every couple seconds, and then if Paul Mullen scores a screamer, then I'll try not to lose my shit on a work call.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to secretly try and put it on my phone and hide my phone under my monitor stand or something just so I can see what's going on without it looking too suspicious. But this is
See,
gonna be
we'll
fun.
see. Let me know
Gonna
how
be
it
fun.
goes.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't want to miss it because I predicted the win.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm
The
feeling
more I look at it,
confident.
The more I look at it, look, I agree. I mean, I don't agree with the win, but I think I agree that we're going to compete. And I think, did I say 1-1 draw? I believe that that's still going to happen. But seeing what they were doing in training, I don't know if you've seen some of the videos. I think a couple of the other pods had kind of delved into their game strategy, but basically Pochettino's seems to be trying to address and basically practice for the formation that we give. And that's when I realized, I mean, I know Wrexham are big and we're massive. We're huge, but that's when I knew we were massive, that Pochettino's actually properly training his team against us in a friendly. And I think it's because they don't want to be embarrassed. They do not want to be on their first game under the new coach against Wrexham. Yes, it's a friendly. Yes, it means jack shit. But to them, it probably means more than it does to us.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think I think when the way you look at it, the way he's sort of approaching it, um, we've got we built our strong team, and so did they.
Yeah, their squad's fucking massive. Beefed
Oh
up.
Jesus! When I saw Sterling in the team, I'm just like, oh no way, this is gonna be big. You know he's gonna play him. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he has to know who his players are too. Like, he's not been there for years. He literally just arrived. He needs to know what his players are doing and what's going on. But hey, mate, look, the way I look at it is when this episode releases, the score will be out, and we're either going to look like absolute geniuses or we're going to look like complete fuckheads. Either way, I'm leaning towards complete fuckheads.
oh mate, we're just complete fuckheads anyway, aren't we? Actually, speaking of which,
Speaking of fuckheads,
this
yep,
following
yep.
guy is not a fuckhead, but I want to give a special shout out to our very first ever patron,
Worst segue
Will.
ever.
Will Huddersfield, our first ever patron, mate. We're greatly appreciative of everything you've done to support our pod, and um, yeah,
I've
I
lost it.
mean, get it together, boy.
I'm trying, but the fact that you went, speaking of fuckheads, our first patron, like, come on, mate. At least give him some beef him up a bit. Come on.
I said the first patron is not a fuckhead.
Yeah, but the fact that you associated, anyways, you're bloody brilliant, Will. We love you. Um, he's just been such a massive part of this pod. As much as most people think it's just the two of us, there's a lot of moving parts in the background, especially when it comes to the music side. We would not have any of our musical guests if it wasn't for Will and his connections. And kindly offering to be the first band that we got to show
Mm,
on this pod, and then get us into contact with the amazing bands of Wrexham.
yeah,
Again, we're indebted to you, my friend, and it seems fitting that you're our first patron, and we appreciate you. We'll be sending your like almost like a welcome package through the email with some codes and a link to the Discord, and yeah, just thank you for being you,
yeah,
mate.
absolutely. And if anyone else out there wants to become a patron, head over. There's link will be in the description and down below. It costs you $5 a month. You get access to a private Discord for members only. You get eligible for a monthly giveaway. You will
Yes.
get cheap merch.
Yes.
That's a good one. You got to get the cheap merch from the merch store.
That's it.
Um, yeah, and you'll get a shout out at the end of the podcast, or like we've just done with Will here. We'll happily
Or
shout you
we'll
out.
segue you from being a fuckhead. Yep. I think that'll happen every week now.
Fuckheads of the
Oh,
week. There
holy
we
shit.
go.
I'm so sorry. It has been remiss of us to forget to mention what other prize that patrons would be getting when they sign up. And that's probably the biggest award that we have on this. And Rousey, what is the biggest award we have on this pod?
Sweet fuck all.
Sweet fuck all. There it is, buddy. There it is. Sweet fuck all. You can't forget that. That is priceless. Sell that on eBay. Honestly, pop it on there. You'll get more than a Wrexham shirt at this point. And Wrexham shirts are going for $8,000. So yeah, you got it, mate. You got it.
Mate, yes, absolutely. So, and also don't forget a giveaway. Buy a piece of merch, get a photo of it at any sports stadium around the world. Tag us in the photo on Twitter or Instagram, and we will pick a winner to get £100 Wrexham gift store
£100.
voucher. So that's a good one. So
That
get
is a
in
pretty
there,
good one.
guys. Plenty of things to keep you tied over and get you connected with us, and we love you. So yes, by all means, twobeards.com. That's twobeards.com.
It's actually twobeardsmedia.com, but I like your
Oh, it
style.
is. It is Two Beards Media. Holy shit, I made a gaff. That's all right.
It's all right. If you Google Two Beards Media, we're the first thing that pops up. If you type in twobeardsmedia.com, that'll come up. If you go onto YouTube and you type in Two Beards, it comes up with Two Beards Wrexham, and therefore our podcast comes up straight away. So there are many ways to find us, but you can see our ugly mugs on YouTube once a week.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Now, we got some signings.
After doing
Adrian,
an episode
we
about how
got
we
some
don't need
signings.
them.
After doing an episode, how we don't need them, we got some friggin' signings. So, you know,
Bound to happen.
one of them, granted, may come as an extra signing with the size of his ears. They can stop goals with his ears anyway. So, um,
I think he's probably, and this is what's funny. So he's how old is he? How old is Mr. Will Boyd?
Will Boyd's 27, I think.
Okay, so I'm older than him by 2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Just for context, I mean, I know I'm balding, but I'm actually, yeah, just under 30. He's also like me and him, I think we would bond because I feel like we both look older than we are. So that's definitely something we can bond over. But also, can I just say, yes, he looks staunch. Yes, he looks like it could be a bouncer at bloody any Wrexham
I
club.
like Welsh Beasts. I like his thing on it, Welsh Beast. If you haven't watched his YouTube channel, head over there, have a look.
Yeah,
He he's a hard man. I'm like,
he is. He is a hard man. Fuck. But like he just my favorite is, and this is what's made it's piquing my, I guess, excitement of just not only just signing him, but have you seen who we've got in those positions already?
mm,
That's fucked. And like and then my favorite is the Twitter circulation is, have you seen the video of Mr. Tozer setting up Will Boyd at Cheltenham Town back in the day? And some guy basically from like 2021 when we signed Tozer He basically, or 2022, yeah, 2021, he basically comes out and he goes on a quoted tweet. Someone's bookmarked it so that you know they're keeping tabs. And it says, it's not like Tozer's going to have a person like Will Boyd on the end of it, just put him in. So, good luck, Wrexham, but he's nothing without Will Boyd. Well, guess what? We got Will Boyd, bitch. So I'm keen.
Yes.
I'm keen.
I think Will Boyle is going to be a very good
Boyle. Fucking
signing.
hell. I keep saying Boyd.
Hey, I made a gaff. You can make a gaff. So there we go.
Boyle. It's just
Boyle.
getting to know these people's names. Too many names in my head.
Well, he
Boyle.
joins
Fucking
us.
Jesus.
He joins us
On the pod?
from Huddersfield Town.
Yep.
So he spent their Championship League side, Huddersfield Town.
Yep.
He's a defender. So
Yep.
I think that you may see Tom O'Connor freed up and running through the centre.
If he's not traded.
Tom O'Connor's not going to get traded. It's not going to happen.
It's your old mob, mate. It's your old mob I'm worried about.
It's not happening. I mean, they've been signing plenty of good people anyway. They just signed a Jamaican international, so he's going to do very well for them. So, all the best to my old side Coventry. I'll be following you. I'll be watching you, but
Tell him to suck an egg.
My heart. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So Will Boyle, new signing from Huddersfield Town. Welcome to the club.
Will Boyle. Oh, fuck. I've said his name wrong. He's probably going to come and skull bash us, gutter stomp us, going to make us bite the curb and just stomp down. The guy is scary, but he's scary good. And that's what I'm most excited about.
Well, other signing, which
yes,
gave me a big smile on my face when I saw this one. Hannah Louise Kyrgiopoulos.
Did you Google how to pronounce it?
No, that's just my. But
I'm not even going to try, mate.
Welsh international since 2011.
That's huge. That is huge.
That's massive.
I think it's just showing. I mean, obviously, we know the women's team was going to get even more beefed up because they're, becoming semi-professional. They're becoming a professional team in terms of contracts now as well. So, obviously, a lot of them, study and work outside of the club. But to get someone who is a fully fledged, full trained, 24/7 player in the squad alongside our new pro signings from our existing squad, that's huge. So look, Hannah, I'm not going to pronounce your last name because if I can't say Will Boyle, then there's no fucking way I'll be able to pronounce your lovely last name, Hannah. Can you just try it one more time for me, mate?
Kyrgiopoulos.
Kyrgiopoulos. Oh, okay. I think I can say that.
Yeah, so you got it.
See, wait till we get corrected on the YouTube and it'll be like, Adrian, you fucking muppet.
Well, a little bit of a tidbit on that one. So got some good little juicy breakdown for you. Her great grandfather was none other than the late great Tommy Gardner, who played as an England international.
I don't know if the Welsh contingent's going to be too happy about that, but yep.
No, they will, because he also played for Wrexham.
There you are.
That's 1945 to 1947, he played for Wrexham. So the links are there. It's just, it's such a feel-good signing that
it is a good signing.
Good signing, and I think she's going to complement Rosie Hughes very, very well, and our women's team are going to be fierce. I can't wait to see them in action.
Oh, it's going to be an epic start to the year, and honestly, mate, I'm just as excited for the women's league as I am for the men's league. I think there is some. I mean, obviously, the competition now is just upped itself. Being promoted as we have been, both leagues now. So I'm excited to play these bigger sides and see the crowds that come in as well. So, I'm keen.
Oh yeah, definitely. So we got the housekeeping out of the way. We got the signings out of the way. We have a new sponsor which came around between our last pod and now, which is a big one, HP.
Yeah. HP sauce, that's it. HP
That's my
sauce.
favorite bloody sauce, man. Have you ever had HP sauce?
It's the best. I lived off. My mum's Scottish, born in Scotland,
Good
so I'd
stuff.
have
I'm glad because
black
had you had
pudding,
said no,
HP sauce.
I would have ended this pod right now and be like, I do not know
I
you
would have I would have
anymore.
ended my life if I didn't know HP sauce. Mate. So, Control Alt deleted my life. That's for sure. But honestly, mate, look, jokes aside, HP, the computer company, huge, 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 huge. And I mean, do we expect anything less? Like our shirt sponsors United, our sleeve sponsors is HP, and our back sponsors is Vistaprint. Three of the biggest companies currently running. And honestly, mate, this can only mean good things for development of the COP, development of newsstands underway as well. And obviously the obvious, pumping that money back into the football team
Mm,
and, making sure that we're, going up every year. And honestly, if I wasn't confident before this season, I'm confident now in the sense that this club is not stopping and it won't stop. And the US tour's showing that with
yeah,
the attraction going on there. Everything's just picking up. We're on to something.
we are absolutely solid sponsorships, big sponsorships to pay for Declan Rice.
Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. You know what? I hope we do sign Declan Rice one day.
I will
So the will
cry. I
no,
will
you want to know? No,
fucking
no.
cry if that happens.
If it happens, mate, if we sign Declan Rice one day, I hope Will Boyle is still at the club to fucking deck the shit out of him. I hope that
What?
I
Why?
hope I hope the first tackle, Declan Rice walks in and it's like Rousey's on the sidelines, like, oh my God, it's Declan Rice. And Will Boyle just looks at that guy and goes, give me your fucking lunch money, and then just does him into the ground.
Oh, come
So
on now. That's a bit much. That's
Declan
a
Rice,
bit
if you're listening,
much.
Will Boyle is coming for you.
So we've got an interesting segment today. We have some very long time Australian fans, ex Welsh expats. I shouldn't say ex
Yes,
Welsh expats. That doesn't make sense. It's Welsh expats.
that's the one.
Um, these guys are fantastic. They're part of the Sydney contingent of the Sydney Reds. Um, been supporting the club a long time, so we get to have a chat with
100%.
them today.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Um, so we will introduce them on the other side of this little sting. Well, on the podcast today, we have some very special guests, some what we like to claim as local Aussies. And, some say that they couldn't stomach seeing their team fall apart, so they left Wales altogether to come to Australia. And some say that they left because the sheep were better looking in Australia and far more mean. So, without further ado, I want to welcome Mike Roberts, John Roberts, not related by the way. Welcome them to the pod to talk about the Sydney-based supporters and what it's like to follow Wrexham from afar. Guys, we raise a glass.
Yeah, that's it. I've got Scotch glass
How are you guys?
here. Good, mate.
We got
Hey,
to
so
start off with g'day.
yeah,
I've been
g'day.
here a
That's
while.
the way. G'day. I want to hear John say it. How do you say it?
Oh, g'day. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
you
getting
got it,
used to
mate.
it.
You got it.
I'm still working on it flip flops.
Love it.
Oh,
Well, I
geez.
guess my first question for you would actually be for John. So obviously, when you migrated over to Australia, how hard was it to adjust to this kind of slang, this kind of not only the accent but just the weird and wonderful Aussie sayings?
It wasn't too bad actually. Like, well, with regards to the slang and the sledging, you sort of get used to it being Welsh and probably from Wrexham. Like you used to, from an England's perspective, obviously we're the sheepshaggers, the Wrexham supporters, and the Welsh people. So it's one of our songs. We take it on board. We take it in jest, and we sing it back, which a lot of the home opposition, if you're playing away from games, they don't like it, which makes it twice as sweet. And like we all like to say, like we shag them, but you eat them. So that's not too bad. With regards to the lingo, there was a bit of a language barrier a little while with just different words, like texter, a marker pen for me, duvet and doona, hoover and vacuum cleaner. Like that
Oof.
threw a few spanners in the works to start with. I was a little bit dazed and confused with a couple of things. But with regards to the foul language that Aussies are famous for, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what's going on there. So it was all fine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I've
we're
got
a simple lot.
yeah, no, I've got a good imagination, so I can join those dots. So it's all good.
Love it. I love it.
When
Oh,
question for both you guys, when did you both settle into Australia?
I'll start off first
Let
because I've
Mike
been
go.
here probably longer. And you can probably tell that by my accent. So, for most essential purposes, I consider myself an Aussie. I came out here when I was 10 years old. I was a 5 pound pom in 1970. So, that shows you how long I've been here. So essentially, I guess I'm the long lost Wrexham fan that lives in Australia and become an Aussie, and all my mates say, "What the hell's this football team you've been following?" They've been saying that for the last 50 years, and it's only in the 12 months that anybody actually gives a shit. It's just been brilliant. So yeah, so my story is came over with my parents in 1970, but lifelong fan because yeah, for 3 years before that, my old man used to take me to the race course, and mate, once it gets you in the heart, over 50 years in Australia, never, ever, ever left me. Always follow that team with an absolute passion. So that's how long I've been here. But over to
wow.
John.
Yeah, so for me, I came out in 2006, initially on a year's working visa with an eye on staying longer, but a little bit of a sort of honeymoon period for Australia and for me. So whether or not both of us liked each other was the sort of trial period for the 12 months. With a couple of days to go, actually, on my visa at the time, I got sponsored. That changed into a permanent visa, and now I'm a dual citizen. So yeah, it's coming up to nearly 20 years now that I've been over here. It's been tough as a Wrexham supporter because when I left, we weren't having the best of times, but it certainly got a lot worse after I left. Which from a distance was lucky because you're not there witnessing it firsthand. But equally, when you're from a distance, it's twice as bad as well. It's a bit of a weird one to say because you can't. You see a result, you might get a text message, you read a report, you don't actually see what exactly is going on the field, and that's the challenge of being over here at that point in time. Like obviously, it was a lot worse for Mike back in the day in the early 70s when there was no internet and maybe no electricity, and the dunny was in the back garden and all that sort of stuff. But
Well, just on that,
uh,
John, it's funny you mentioned that because when I think back about how I used to follow Wrexham, there were times when it was 3 weeks before I knew what the score was. I don't
Far out.
remember a
Yeah.
magazine called Shoot, but we used to get that, and I used to get that sent out to me every month, and I'd read it, and that's where I'd know where Wrexham were in the table and whether they'd won or lost, etc. And it was only when I went back for my honeymoon, so it was 1984. First time I ever saw Wrexham on TV, which was actually when I was in Singapore playing Porto. So it was on the TV in Singapore. So yeah, I used to follow Wrexham and seriously follow them, but it would take 3 weeks to know what the scores was. And then, technology changed, and then they had the scores on the telephone, so you'd ring up a special number and you get the scores the next morning and those sort of things. So and
It's
yet
crazy.
the passion never ever died. Followed Wrexham with everything I had.
So you would
So
you would
things have certainly
remember
changed.
you would remember the Spirit of '78 then and that
Oh
year
yeah,
and
oh yeah. 78. I remember. Actually, I do remember. So I must have. It's hard to remember what I could see when, but I do remember my uncle ringing me up when I think we were 12 points. We were about 12 points ahead with 4 games to go or something, and we lost our last 4 games in 1977 and failed to go up. And I was crying, and all my relatives were crying. And then the next year, I think we beat Rotherham 7-1 to go up. And I was dancing in the streets, but no one else cared because no one had heard of Wrexham. So, but yeah, those were the days.
I
wow.
always equate those things with Wrexham. Like, and I think a lot of the long term Wrexham supporters will probably sympathise with the euphemism, but it's if you ever watch The Simpsons, there's the right way and the wrong in the Homer Simpson way. And like Bart goes, isn't that the wrong way? And he goes, yes, but it's quicker. And I always say with Wrexham, there's the right way of getting promoted and the wrong way of getting promoted. And there's a way of really fucking it up. And we've in the past tended to find that bad way of doing it. So obviously last season was the Grimsby result. In the FA Cup in 96-97, it was losing to Chesterfield in the quarter-final. We've been on the cusp of greatness of promotions and maybe cup upsets or great cup runs, and we've just found a way to just balls it up right at the last minute. Yeah. So it makes a change this last 12 months, and it's good. It's still surreal.
That leads me on. Like, I've got an interesting. Always wanted to ask someone that experienced 78 and experienced obviously 23. Which one would you say is better?
Well, I wasn't alive, so I'm out of this question. So.
All right, so this one's for Mike.
Mike.
So, sorry, so you're comparing 78 with now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So I want you to compare 78.
Okay, it's been quite funny because before we go into that, I just want to say one more thing that sort of relates to the question you asked earlier about, what it's like from being afar. Just to give you a bit of perspective, I never went back until 1984. And the year I left, we actually went up in another good era when we went up from Division 4 to Division 3 when there was Albert Kinsey and Eddie May, and there was a great team under John O'Neill, and that was brilliant. I was actually in Wrexham for that. That's why I've never, ever stopped supporting the team. So that was brilliant for me when we got promoted. 1978, I remember it being brilliant, but because of the lack of media, I guess I didn't feel that as much as the people in Wrexham did because I was just too far away from it. I mean, I was really excited, but, I never got any sort of TV coverage or anything like that. Over the last few years, and then I went back in 84 and went for my honeymoon, and it was right in the middle of Thatcher's era and the coal mining strike, and we actually got announced at the ground, and the crowd, 1,080. It was the lowest Wrexham ever got to. So for me to go from that in the 60s when we were getting 12,000 to see 1,000 in the ground, I was absolutely shattered, and then to see then Wrexham rise again in 78, it was absolutely, sorry, the 78 thing was brilliant. But now I've spent years and years from Australia on a thing called Red Passion. I don't know whether you're aware of it. It's the site that I've been on for years. I'm Aussie Red. And I think most people over there know me as that. And when I've sort of been through that, and I've always been talking about Wrexham and trying to promote it in Australia, and even suggested that we try and get Russell Crowe on board. I've been doing that for 3 or 4 years before Ryan Reynolds came along. But this recent thing is surreal. It is just amazing. Everybody I talk to, not everybody, but most people I talk to are just mates, general Aussies. They've all heard of Wrexham. I mean, I was in Vietnam recently. They've all heard of Wrexham. They're talking about Wrexham. This to me is on it's a totally different level. At a point in one time, maybe not brilliant, but the whole thing, the whole concept of what's happening, it's hard to believe it's happening. It's that good, Seriously, most Aussies now have heard of Wrexham, which is, I'm just crazy. A bit gobsmacked, to be honest.
It's such a good, like, you bring up a really good point, which is, that's something that you couldn't predict. And there were, people, advocating for people to take over the club. Obviously, we know what happened with the Hamilton era and things like that. But, to get some people who genuinely care, I know it's not lost on you guys. I know it's not lost on either of you, but I think sometimes, even us newer fans can kind of almost, what is it? Get used to it and go, this is the normal. And we can kind of be like, that's fine. We earned 20 million this year. Yeah, that makes sense. That must mean so much more to the longevity of those like original supporters, and it's just a payoff for the fans. Like when I saw the celebrations and that pitch invasion, I don't think there was a dry eye in the house, because myself, I was losing it over it. My dad, who hates football, like he's a Aussie Rules fan, and then he doesn't like anything else. And he texted me the next day saying, I saw it on the news. How bloody brilliant is that? And I was like, wow. And for me, that was big, because that's a non-football supporting person realizing what it means for a town. And that's what's not lost, I don't think, on you guys as well. So really good on you for sticking with it, especially when it could have been as easy to say, you know what, my time has come. I can't get that information anymore, but it's in your blood and it's bloody brilliant.
Yeah, I just want to go with that for a moment. Sorry, John, I'll be quiet in a minute because I know I can talk, and then you have you go. But you've just hit something there that really means a lot to me, and that is the passion I have for this club. I cannot explain. I just cannot explain it. I've even all my life I've been here 52 years. I've been back 3 times to watch Wrexham. I've even taken a player over to play for Wrexham, and and the passion I had. I'll tell you, the passion is I took my 2 boys over when they were young. One when he was 21, and the other one was about 18. And I went over, and there were 8 games on when I was there, and it snowed for every single game, and I came back not seeing a game. Even went into the turf. There was going to be the game. Only time in the last 30 years I've cried. But that's how much passion I have for this club, and they bloody owe me now because they're going to have to take me back and stand on those terraces because they haven't stood on the terrace with me. That to me is one of the most important things in my life. And yet I'm an Aussie. I have not lived in Wrexham since 1970.
Wow.
But the feeling for this club, and it's funny because I can't relate to how you guys are passionate about this club because you're Aussies, right? And I get you guys because I'm Aussie as well now. But yeah, the passion for Wrexham, and Ryan and Rob, actually it's probably Rob that gets it more than Ryan, but Ryan's he gets it. There is a passion in Wrexham that I don't think it exists in Australia. It might a little bit in AFL, not quite sure, but the passion is phenomenal because there's a lot of people in Wrexham. It's all they have. It's all there is. And I'll hand over now to John because he's lived there longer than I do. And that's what I feel about Wrexham. There is a passion that's amazing.
100%.
Well, it's always been there. Like even on those bad times. So like I've been supporting the club since the mid-80s and stuff. So I was sort of introduced to the club by Barry Horn, who used to play for Everton. He was Wales captain. They were doing things around the local schools, and I was a little scrawny little runting on the field, and he took me under his wing and stuff and looked after me. And he was my first sporting hero. Like he was that fire that started sort of the Wrexham passion for me. And I'm sure you guys have seen over the last 24 hours the Wrexham team over in America and all the interaction they've got with the supporters that are obviously going to be predominantly American supporters. And you don't realise how much that can ignite a lifelong support of a club. Like it doesn't matter what sport it is. If you do the right things as players with those interactions with the crowd, you get them forever. Like the Liverpool manager, was it Bill Shankly, said there's 2 things that, like it's sort of the death and taxes and there's Liverpool FC or whatever it was. It's more important. It can be more important than life to certain people. Like that's the team you pick for life. We've happened to pick Wrexham, who have gone through the mill. It can be lost in all the chatter about Rob and Ryan, but there's been some horrible times. Like there's been lots of peaks and troughs. Like the season before we beat Arsenal in the FA Cup, we should have been relegated. Like we were dead last in the league, and we didn't get relegated, I believe, because Macclesfield Town didn't have the right height floodlights. And so they weren't promoted because of a technicality, and we weren't relegated. And then luckily we had no money. We finished dead last. Arsenal won the title. The next year we beat them in the FA Cup. And that cup run that season paid to invest in the youth players that came through the system, which allowed us to progress and win promotion a couple of seasons later. So there's been some good teams, not as great as the 70s and presumably not as great as the teams we've got now. So we've always been a team that has overachieved with the resources we've got, even though we've been in non-league. And then, like, for my period of time supporting the club, the late 90s was incredibly frustrating when you see the likes of, we used to play against Wigan Athletic, Fulham, Cardiff City, and around about the same time, all 3 of them got these owners that had so much money that they did the equivalent of maybe what we did in the non-league, which is paid to get out of the league. And me and my friends used to sort of scratch our heads going, why doesn't it happen to us? Like all we need is just that little bit more money because we've got the supporters. The supporters have been there through thick and thin. Like the volume of supporters we get for away games even when we were bad, it was incredible. Like if you look at the non-league numbers, even when we were going through the rough times, we had amongst the highest attendances, if not the highest on average, and away support was incredible. So the base was there. It was just the on-field and behind-the-scenes stuff needed to be fixed, and you couldn't ask for a better angel or angels to turn up. Like the fact, like I remember, I was told by my mates that he was going to a vote, but they weren't telling who it was. I knew the vote had said yes to listen to further information, and then they announced who it was. And I got a text message about 4 o'clock Sydney time in the morning, so I was just getting up for work. I think I woke the house when I yelled out, "Fucking Ryan Reynolds!" And like my missus is like, "What?" And he's like, "No, fucking Ryan Reynolds." And he's like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "He's buying the club." And he's like, "No, he can't be." And I go, "No, I have to check this because I thought it was my mates taking a piss." And it's like, it's everywhere. Like, Jesus Christ, this is unreal. And then luckily, they like Mike has said, that they get it. That they understand. Like we are probably relatable to a lot of people on different levels. You got your sports fans who love a story, and if you're talking football in the UK, most football supporters or soccer supporters have heard of Wrexham because of the FA Cup upsets, or it's Mickey Thomas who scored that goal. It's Joey Jones that used to play for the team. It's beating Arsenal. It's drawing with Porto. It's playing in Roma. It's all these stories that are there, and in lots of instances, especially in the local area in North Wales, I think for a long time, Wrexham were everyone's second team. When you live so close to Liverpool, Manchester, even the Birmingham teams, it's a challenge if you're going to pay 15, 20 quid to watch Wrexham play, or you can pay 20 to 25 quid to watch a Premiership team. It's not a challenge to decide. Like you can see your Ronaldos of the world, you can see your David Beckhams, your Ryan Giggses, or whatever it is. You're taking a punt coming to a non-league game. But luckily, this last season, the last couple of seasons, with the sort of the fights that we've had with Stockport and the Notts Counties, it's changed everyone's perception of that league. There's some great games that go on, and there's some good teams there. And I think as a whole, we've highlighted everything. We've highlighted everything that's good about a small club, even though we're probably quite a big club. It's a local community thing, and it's highlighting there's more outside the Premiership than the Premiership. Like there's a lot more people going back to local games because they can see great games, and it's relatable. You're investing in your community rather than paying.
And I'd like to make a point too there, John. That, as I said, I'm from probably a generation older, but as I said, my views of Wrexham as a kid, I remember being a kid, and that thing with John O'Neill when he picked me up and I watched the team train, and so they were my heroes. And I even interviewed. There was one of our top players in that era, Albert Kinsey, and I found out he lived about 5 kilometres up the road from me in Sydney when he retired. And I interviewed him for the club, and they put it a big spread in the program. But the point I want to make is I remember being in Wrexham in the 60s, and I was young, and I lived on a council housing estate in Wrexham that John will back me up here. It's one of the roughest places in Europe. It was pretty rough. But
even the dogs that got knives where Mike's from.
Yeah, it was rough. And but what bonded everybody together in that place was Wrexham Football Club. And this is what Ryan and Rob are getting in the documentary. You can see it. There is a passion in Wrexham. It's working class, right? Now
that's the one, working class.
Where I am now in Sydney, and my life is so different to what I experienced growing up as a kid in Wrexham. And that's what they are trying to get across. This is like Philadelphia in America. It's working class. Wrexham means more to people in Wrexham than that any team would in Sydney, because in Sydney there's other things to do, right? In Wrexham, it wasn't a lot to do. If the football team didn't do well, the town would have a frown on its face for a whole week. It was down. There was this just amazing passion I remember as a kid. But there is I remember the bad side to that was the crowd violence when I was a young kid, and I was being groomed. I remember my mates, they had these steel cap boots, and we played Aston Villa. I remember it was a game against Aston Villa, and I was bloody 10, for God's sake. And they were trying to drag me down the road and get me these steel cap boots so I could join in all the, all that sort of stuff. So there was this dark sort of past, and that's not just Wrexham. That's the whole of football, and that's where this Wrexham Chester thing started, which John might know a bit more about than I do. But there is this side. But I think that too, there is the only downside I can see to what's happening at the moment. There will be an undercurrent of fans who believe it is their club. I've gone through the hard times, can't get a seat. They're going to be upset.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can
always
totally
gonna be
relate to
the
that,
case.
even though I've not been there for years. And that's a thing that they're going to have to manage, I think. And I feel sorry for them because I'm from that background. I'm from that,
Yep.
well, where's my seat? So that's something I think that Wrexham are now going to have to deal with. And they're building a new stand, but I think that's going to fill up in 10 minutes or something.
Yeah,
So
I
it's going to
had
be an
a
interesting journey.
I had a I
Yeah.
had a thing on one of the previous pods where I was talking about it. It's just going to take time because I don't think that the club really understood just how big this is getting, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the fact that they were expecting 10 to maybe 20 at the most, 20,000 people at the bus parade, but instead I think they said that there was about 45 to 46,000 in the end.
Yeah.
Which is obviously much bigger than what any of them thought.
Yeah.
But just touching on Mike, the passion you display when you talk about it, how it grips you. I would say as a new fan and someone that understands the English football system and a Coventry born boy myself, when Wrexham started getting its grips into me, I didn't even realize really what was happening. I thought, oh, I'm just really interested in this. I just want to see where it goes. And it's just like it was just over time, it just became more and more, and it became an obsession. It became
Yep.
everything I lived for because like wanted to model,
Yep.
Me and Adrian started a business based on this, on Wrexham, because we love Wrexham so much that we want to be able to share that with as many people as possible.
Exactly.
And
That's the thing. You hit the nail on the head there. It's sharing something with other people. And that's what I've been trying to do most of my life in Australia, because I was the only Wrexham supporter, and they look at me strange. It's like, you got to get this team, and nobody had ever heard of it. Now at least they have,
yeah,
which is
That must be it must
interesting.
be a good feeling to kind of, it's almost like you've been preaching something for so long and then you're like, oh my God, they actually get it now. They get it. Like
I get people coming up to me every single day, all my old friends. Oh, that team you used to follow, isn't that the team? And they go, oh my God, yours used to rave on about this bloody team, and now they know who they are. It's surreal,
and no other team,
You were asking
has done
before.
that,
Sorry.
and that's like even like me growing up in Coventry and somewhat supporting Coventry now, and because I moved to Australia when I was young, I never really got that feeling, that raw connection that's like just deep inside of you. And when I realized that Wrexham was the team that was doing it for me, that really got to me. It was like, wow, like this is a Welsh football team, like National League. They're not a Premier League team. They're not part of you know, the big six, or, like your Manchester Uniteds, Arsenal, those guys. They're
they
just
will
a
be,
little
man.
team from North Wales.
Uh,
But by gosh, there is just this thing, and just you cannot put it down. And once it's in you, once you have it, good luck getting rid of it, because I
Yeah.
sure as hell can't.
yeah,
Well,
you
so
won't
just
get rid of it.
I mean,
And as
just
Yeah,
I
a
you,
point.
said,
you, you were asking before.
I
Sorry, I was going to
took
say
it.
you were asking before what it was like when I first moved over, and I think it's probably more a guy thing than maybe a girl thing. But you sort of you meet new friends, and like, do you like, what sports do you like? Do
Yeah.
you like
Yeah.
soccer? Do you like your NRL? Do you like your AFL? Whatever it might be. Do you like your footy? And that just threw a real spanner in the works. So depending on who you were speaking to, footy
Oh,
for me
yeah.
is, and
Yeah.
they're gonna, well, I support Wrexham. No, but seriously, who do you support? He's like, no, I support Wrexham.
Sport Wrexham. Yeah.
What about your Premiership team? You go, well, no, I don't support a Premiership team because
No.
I support Wrexham. Because they'll make it one day and they're like, yeah, fuck off. And he's like, well, like, I can always, like, there's always next season. I think that's the mantra we've mostly lived by, most Wrexham supporters, is we've got a better chance next year. We'll do it next year. We'll do it next year.
Have
And
you ever
next
looked
year's finally.
forward to a season so much as this one coming up?
I'm worried because everyone's thinking it's going to be an easy season, and I
That's
think
what I think.
everyone's going to get their knives out. Everyone. Every away game we go to, there's going to be shit, and there's going to be there's going to be animosity, and it is jealousy. We've been there with just the opportunity we've got. We've got a great opportunity. We've got to rise above it. You've got to sort of zone it out. Hopefully the team can do that. I think they're good enough to do that, but it's not going to be easy. Like, you've got Bradford City in the league. Like, they were a Premiership team not that long ago. Their ground is massive. Like, if they get the crowd there, it's going to be a difficult game. Like, it's not going to be a walk in the park. I think we can do it.
Yeah,
but we've got to sort of zone out the hype and just go.
That's
what, we did it last year by focusing. We've got to do it again.
I'm going to back what you just said there, John, when you said I'm a bit scared, because it is surreal. It's like, because you're a Wrexham supporter, you're just expecting the bad news to come around the corner, right? That's basically what you're saying, and I'm the same.
Yeah.
But watching the documentary and watching how they put it together, I've got to take my hat off to the guys. They just know what they're doing. You can tell, and it's like, and I've even said to people, they say, well, where do you think they'll end up? And I've said, well, you know what? I reckon these guys can take us to the championship. And then if they're smart enough, they're just setting Wrexham up to be a team that America's going to back into the Premier League. Like, I'm not saying it will happen, but I've got this hope. And I've never had that before with Wrexham. Never. Wrexham's always been, they're down there. There's someone I talk about, it's my party trick. I know I follow Wrexham. No one's ever heard of them, but suddenly they have. And it's different. It's strange. And a bit of a segue. So John and I, we've set up this, organised to have this bar in York Lane, above Wynyard Stations, right in the centre of Sydney. And obviously it's a coffee place in the morning and a bar at night. We turned it into a Wrexham bar. And we've got we put a visitors book there, and we've been putting on different social media that it's there. And I just brought the book home with me tonight. So we're up to 67 visitors from Wrexham.
Wow.
So, and they're just the people who've just dropped in and written in the book. And Dieter, who's the guy that runs the place, we got the shirts up and this, that, and the other. And it's just brilliant. And I work about 2 minutes above it. So if someone's in there, they'll give me a call. And I'm meeting so many people from Wrexham dropping in. So it's fantastic, And and the funny thing about that is, you were talking before, John, about we're going into the leagues this week. Well, the owner of Swindon Town, right? He owns it. He's an Aussie, right? He puts in £5 million a year into Swindon, right? And so he's a guy that takes all our photos when we're in York Lane, when we'll get dressed up. And he's looking at us. He said, I'm not wearing a Wrexham shirt. I'll get killed in Swindon if I do that. So he takes the photos. But I was talking to him 2 nights ago, and to quote, I won't tell you his name, but to quote him, fucking Wrexham. I said, what do you mean? He said, I'm trying to do my budgets. I'm trying to get some money from a manager to get some players. This is for Swindon. And he said, mate, I can't compete with Wrexham. He wasn't happy. Well, that's the impact Wrexham's having, right? Which is really good.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's such a good point.
On that note, I've got a side bet with Adrian that if Wrexham go back to back,
as champions, by the way, he's saying, I'm thinking it's not as likely as he thinks.
Back-to-back promotions, I'm pretty sure they're going to get that. I'm absolutely positive. But back-to-back champions, so Champions League 2.
Okay.
I'm going to fly myself over from sunny old WA over here over to Adelaide to visit Adrian so we can celebrate. But I'm just thinking that maybe we make a little side trip and come up to
Sydney,
to the pub.
That sounds like a much better idea.
Come to York Lane, boys.
That sounds like a plan. Look, to be honest, mate, like I'm glad you brought that up, because John, your sentiment, which was like where you're hearing people say it's just going to be piss easy, and I'm like, I haven't been around it as much, but I'm actually feeding off of the anxiety of local Wrexham people, because that has like you said, they've royally fucked up in the past, in terms of that, and it's this whole thing of, I'm scared because imagine, I guess with Chris and I, because we do this pod, he's immortalized. Oh, we're going back to back, guaranteed, mate. And I've just told him, I said, you watch, someone's going to use that soundbite middle of the year on some Bradford pod or some, Stockport pod, and they're just going to rip us a new one. And he's like, Adrian, you got to have faith. I'm like, it's not that I don't have faith. I just want to be sensible.
It's very easy to run away with it, I think, isn't it?
So what do you think, John?
Just when you think it can't get any better, they do tend to pull the rug from underneath you sometimes, Wrexham. But I think everyone, it's a weird one. Even when we got the game, we got promotion, Boreham Wood. When we went down after a minute, 45 seconds, I was just like, this is fucking typical. This is us in a nutshell, sort of thing. But I thought, okay, first minute we can get back into this. It's not Man United versus Man City in the FA Cup final. We can do this. And then for me personally, I'm not sure about everyone else, but I very much resembled Rob and Ryan at full time. If you've seen the video clip that Paul Rudd did, where they just sort of started navel gazing and sort of zoned out. I was just like, shit, we've done this. And like my missus and like my two kids, they were still asleep because it was early in the morning. She came through really gingerly because she thought we'd lost. Because I wasn't saying anything that was like, no, we won. But I'm just not taking it in because I've waited so long. There's been so many false dawns and false hopes. And like, as much as I've seen us have 3 promotions now, so the mid-90s, the early 2000s, and this one, this is the first time I've actually seen us win a title. We've been promoted as second or third or whatever it might be. It's weird. And it's great. And I want more. But I don't want to get carried away as well because I know it's going to be hard. Everyone, we've got a huge American-sized target on our backs for this next season. That everyone, no matter where they are in the league, will be giving everything to fuck us over and win by hook or crook. And we've got a great team that can win games. But we've got to have a clever team now, I think, because there's going to be you don't want to say cheats, but there's going to be people who bend the rules in games to get right out certain players. I'm going to push the bar a bit on the tackles, maybe on key players like Elliot Lee and Paul Mullen. They're going to do what they need to stop us playing, and we've got to play differently.
I'm going to sum that up in one, John. People don't feel sorry for us anymore. Like we were always,
exactly. Yeah,
they don't feel sorry for us anymore. But going back to the point of whether we'll get promotion, I reckon we're nailed on to go up. I don't know if I put my house on as being champions, but
correct.
I'm
That's
pretty
me.
confident. I'm pretty confident we'll go up.
But
I'm even worried that I'm confident. If I think John would relate to this, I'm worried that I'm actually confident because that's never happened before.
What's the saying? It's the hope that kills you.
Well,
that's it.
Well, let's hope they do go back to back, because then we'll be coming to your pub. We'll do a live podcast from your pub, and
I still want to go regardless. I've decided now, so I'm like rain, hail, or shine now. I'm keen. So
I can honestly say this, right? I believe with the structures and things that they're putting in place now, and after seeing what Luton have done and that, everything they're putting in place now, I have, without a shadow of a doubt, I reckon they'll be in the Premier League. I don't think that they
don't say shadow of a doubt. Just leave that bit out.
Okay, all right. No, they are 100% going to the Premier League. That's their trajectory. That's where I see them.
This is going to bite you, man.
I don't think it's going to be straightforward. I think there's going to be hiccups along the way. There's probably going to be a bit of pain. We'll do
there you go. It's the wrong way in the Wrexham way. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. The long way around.
But I'm telling you now, I'm 100% certain that they will end up in the Premier League
someday.
I actually think you're right, but I can't believe I'm saying that. 3 years ago, I would have said you're a lunatic.
Yep. I still call him a lunatic.
The foundations they're putting in, hopefully with the talk and the news of the academy money and the funding that they're going to there, that's going to make a huge difference, because I think what made Wrexham great back in the day is we had a bit of a production line, not a full team all the time, but there were key players that would come through at different points. And like again, you go back, it's Mickey Thomas's, it's the Joey Joneses, it's the Stevens, it's the Roberts brothers. There's Brian Hughes. There was a lot of local talent that we had, but luckily came through the team at the time. And when those players came through at that particular time, we had to sell them because that was what we were doing. We were a club that would have good players that had to sell them to survive. With this money now, however long it lasts with us, it gives us the opportunity to not only invest in those youth players coming through in the local communities, but hopefully holding on to them and taking them. Like we can actually, it's a selling point now to the parents that get tapped up on the sidelines going, do you want to play for Man United or Liverpool? Or do you want to stay in the local community and play for your hometown team that are going places, that are gonna, they're on they're on a global footprint now. And it's a great selling point, and it's a huge opportunity. Like if you look not only at the Wrexham team and the Welsh, like the players from the local community, but a lot of key players through the years for the Welsh football team, the national team, have been North Walian players, like your Ian Rushes, your Mark Hughes, your Neville Southwells. They're all from the North Wales community. It can only do good things, not only for the club, but for the national team as well, hopefully.
Yeah.
That's my hope. And that's it. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there too, John, that maybe Adrian and Chris don't realise is that if you look at a map of Britain and look at where all the football clubs are, Wrexham has the biggest area around it with nothing because we are the capital of North Wales. So we've got the whole of North Wales that doesn't have a football team. So, we do have the potential to get huge crowds.
Marketing.
They'll come from all over North Wales. There's about 500,000 people, would live within 100k, and they don't have a football team. So there is massive potential here. So I think, it could be that Ryan, as I said, probably Rob's the one that's done most of the hard work. I think they're smart men. They know what they're doing, but they know what they're doing not just from a football club viewpoint, but from a viewpoint of what the town is. It's a working class town that just has a heart that, there are other places in Britain the same, parts of Newcastle and things like that, but they get it. And this team can go places. Obviously, it will take money, but you'll find there will be massive support. Not just from we're even getting it in Australia, right? But North Wales,
exactly.
The stadium's not going to be big enough, right? It's just not.
They're going to need a stadium.
It's a great point you bring up because the North Wales, like you said, you've got all of North Wales, and I think I was listening to a Humphrey Kerr on just a football podcast, and they were just talking to him like, were you looking at other clubs? And they said obviously yes, and I think was Hartlepool was one of them. They were looking at a couple of others, and Humphrey was right in what he said. He goes, obviously it's about the community, and obviously that's the first thing that they looked at. But that second thing he did mention was, like you said, capitalizing on that market. If their main teams are Premier League teams, which are outside of their area, why aren't they going for their local team? Well, okay, if they're good and they're picking up, and that's where I guess you see that Twitter chatter at the moment where people are, mouthing off and going, oh, I bet you were a Man United supporter a couple of years ago, blah, blah, blah to people. But that's what needs to happen. We need to, as a club, we need to convert the people in North Wales who are local, who are within that 100k radius, bring them across. And then, like you said, that stadium's not going to be big enough. It's just not going to house the people of what, like you said, 500,000 people. And we want, that's just Wales too. That not inclusive of all these Americans and now Australians and people from Brazil. I don't know if you've seen how big that's going off at the moment, but there's a few in there. It's just going to get to a point where they are going to have to fast track a lot of almost stem the marketing. All right, guys, you're doing a great job. Maybe just bring it in until we get this cop built, and then just start talking about us again.
And you hit on 2 points there. One, I was just about to say, I've just been watching the Test match. It just started, and Labuschagne, whatever his name is, batting. He's a Wrexham supporter. Did you know that? He's
No.
nailed his name on. Yep. He
Okay.
plays for Glamorgan down in South Wales, and he was interviewed the other day, and they asked him who his football team was, and he said Wrexham. So
No
he's a
way.
Wrexham
That's brilliant.
supporter. And the other thing is, we're talking about catchment area, and John alluded to this earlier, is Wrexham used to be everybody's second team because you've only got it's 30 minutes to Liverpool. It's 45 minutes to Manchester, right? And you've got all those big teams that when I was a kid, you couldn't support them because they didn't have the roads to get there. Now it's just a freeway drive to Liverpool or
Yeah.
Everton. So we were losing a lot of support there. But I think a lot of those people are now coming back because hey, you know what? This is a better story. This is a better
Yeah.
team to support,
So-
you know, and it's going to be huge, hopefully.
So
all the people that are in North Wales that are maybe our Premiership supporters as well. If you ask probably a lot of them, that they're going, "Oh, I used to support Wrexham, or I've been to a game and they were shit." And
Yeah.
that's probably true because, like, I was sort of before we got on the call with you, I was sort of thinking back of like the first games I went to. I was like, Jesus Christ, I can't remember the first game we won as me as a supporter as a kid. But I remember every single loss. And I know the first game was a loss, and I know the first away game was a loss, and the horrible games were all horrible losses. Again, it's the Wrexham way. You go on a big run. It's a bit like the Swans in Sydney with the AFL, where it takes a lot of games for the Swan supporters to go and sort of go out in numbers to support the team, and then they'll go and lose, and the numbers drop again. The crowd numbers drop. And I think you used to see that a lot with Wrexham, where it would take a 5-10 game winning streak or non-losing streak to get a good crowd through the gates, and then when they got a big crowd, they always seem to bomb. And they'd go away again. They'd go back to your Liverpools, your Evertons, your Man Uniteds, Man Cities, whoever it would be. Now it's different. Like there's such a mad scramble for tickets that it's sort of a good thing that if they are having a rough time, there'll still be people that want to get a ticket at the moment. Obviously, if you go on a huge losing streak and it falls out the arse, it's not good. But yeah, it's different. It's a whole new world for us all to be in as Wrexham supporters. Like you as new guys joining, not knowing the extent of how bad it was in the past, and it's us not believing it's how good
let's touch on that.
Forward.
So this is what one of the things I wanted to get your guys' opinion on, because me and Adrian ourselves, we're I guess you can call us takeover babies. Like we came after the takeover. But when Alex Hamilton got up to his shit,
I was hoping you'd bring this up.
How bad?
I wasn't
like, how bad was it? Like, how much did you just want to go punch that fucker square in the nose? Like,
Well, I was still living in the UK at that point. I was still living in Wrexham, and I was actually at that particular game when he walked on the cop trying to start a fight. I wasn't in the cop. I was in the Price Griffith stand, so the Mold Road stand. But everyone wanted to do exactly what you said. Like, just wanted to beat the crap out of the bloke because he was just absolute scum for what he was trying to do to the club, like to our club, to my club. Was like when you haven't got much to look forward to on the weekends, it's the sport, it's whatever sporting team it is, but in our case it's Wrexham, and that to be taken away, or to be wanting to be taken away by a scrupulous prick, was horrible. Like I went to a few of the, like I was part of the supporters trust and the quid a week thing for a period of time. I did go to a few of the protests and stuff. It certainly wasn't as active as a lot of others were. But myself, I felt useless because I didn't know what to do. Luckily, there were better people than myself who did so much more, like your Spencer Harrises of the world, the Lindsay Joneses of the world, the Pete Joneses of the world, who did incredible amounts of work to get us where we are now. Like these people are the ones that moved mountains and put their livelihoods on the line to go to court to sort of stop him and bits and pieces like that. It was heartbreaking. It was absolutely horrible. And it didn't stop there, like everyone thinks it was just Hamilton, but there was a couple of owners after that were doing equal things. Jeff Moss, who put those horrible flats behind one corner of the ground. Who
just over your left shoulder, mate. I can see them.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can see it over there.
It's like we're looking now, obviously they're developing the cop, but future developments are going to be impacted by those flats there as well. Like I went back so the last time I went back last year to hopefully watch them play in the playoff final. So I bought my ticket just before the Grimsby game, and it all went tits up and it went wrong. But I hadn't been home for over 10 years, so I still went home and sort of friends and family, and luckily got to see Wales qualify for the World Cup with mates in Wrexham. But I went to the club shop because I wanted to have a look around and see if there was anyone famous there, see if Rob and Ryan were there, and if they wanted to hang out with me. Unfortunately, they didn't. But driving around the back of the Cop and going into the car park by the club shop, it was depressing seeing those flats there because it was infringing on our ground. It doesn't need to be there. It was put there with a promise of development at the Cop that didn't happen. It was pretty, to put it mildly, piss poor. Hamilton deserves a lot of crap. There was other people that equally didn't help with the club.
And my view of that, John, you were in Wrexham, but I wasn't. I was here. But being on Red Passion, I was talking to people continually on social media all the time. And not being there probably made me even angrier because I couldn't do anything. And my anger was unbelievable. I could not believe that this was happening, that a person could get away with what he was doing. And that was the time I mentioned earlier about Russell Crowe, because Russell Crowe's family's from Wrexham, right? And so I was thinking, well, can we get someone like that to come in and bail us out, and all that sort of stuff, which is ironic now because we have got actors to bail us out. But at the time, I was so angry and frustrated. And one of the reasons I am, I can see Adrian now, you've got the Wrexham banner behind you, the stand there. I remember paying £25, whatever that was in dollars, to buy a brick so they could build the stand, right? That's the foundations upon which Wrexham are built. The supporters always do their bit to keep the team going. And when I heard, I think Wrexham were within 24 hours of going out of business because Hamilton wanted to sell them out of business. And one of the most amazing things that Wrexham has ever done was in 24 hours, they raised £250,000 or in that vicinity to pay the tax government so that the club would survive. And, from that came the trust. Now, the trust was not running the club as efficiently as they could, but guess what? They ran it and they kept it going. And to me, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that is a massive, massive foundation of Wrexham, is how they did survive that. And even now I'm getting, this is what I mean. There's a passion about Wrexham. I can't even tell you why it is. I just get so passionate about the club.
There's a bit
I've bloody been there
it.
3 times in 50 years, but it's amazing. It
Mike,
gets you.
There's a bit of discourse at the moment through social media with regards to the supporters trust. Now I sort of sit on the fence. I see it from both angles, that the supporters trust are just trying to protect the club. But the other side of it is that they're holding Rob and Ryan and the club back from developments and changing things around the ground, key things that need to be done. The fact that they still hold the lease, even though they don't have the freehold, that now obviously belongs to the club. What's your opinions on the supporters trust as a Wrexham fan or Aussie from far?
Well, I'll tell you from my angle, and then you might want to direct this also to John because he's probably better understands it. Because I'm not there, I don't understand the trust as probably well as John does. And I think I summed it up before. To me, the trust, and I saw Wrexham Football Club go down the hill, and I told you I took a player over. He was an Australian guy here that was head of the Australian schoolboys team, and I took him over, and he ended up playing for Wrexham for 3 seasons. Didn't get into the first team, but he got, he's playing for Rilham, teams like that, getting loaned out. And I went to Wrexham when they were under the trust, and they were not professional. All right. I've run a soccer club in Sydney, albeit an amateur one. I reckon we ran it better than what Wrexham was being run at the time. So I can be very critical of the trust and say, well, you know what you're doing, but guess what? There was no one else to do anything. So my opinion of the trust is I don't like to give them a hard time because without them, we wouldn't have a club.
Correct.
So, I will say that. Having said that, like any group of people, power goes to people's heads, and I won't mention any names, but there's a couple of people in there where it just went to their head and they just want to hold on to things. And so I think at the moment there's a bit of that going on. But to me, that'll be sorted. I mean, they're on hiding to nothing, because I think Rob and Ryan and the system in place at the moment is not going to put up with too much crap. And I don't see the trust being a long-term problem. I just think there's probably a couple of people there who think they're more important than they are. And I think they've done more good than harm. That's my view, but John might have a different view.
Yeah, they
No,
definitely
no,
kept the club alive. But John, same question to you.
Yeah, no, I think on the whole, like at the end of the day, if they didn't step in and do what they did over the period of time where we were a trust held club, we wouldn't be talking today. Like we wouldn't have met you guys today. We wouldn't be talking about Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney owning the football club. People gave their time for free to do what they did. Like people move mountains. Like the supporters paid what they could to keep the club going. Like we paid those bills. We ensured that we could start seasons. We paid we paid payers' wages. We did an incredible. The supporters trusted an incredible amount to keep this club alive. You don't have to look that far. Like you only have to look 20 minutes down the road to Chester to see a club that imploded. You've got Southend United at the moment are going through very similar situations where the owner is holding the club to ransom. And what I think was amazing at the time when we had to go into a trust-owned club was the amount of support we had from other clubs around the UK as well. So like Brighton and Hove Albion did a huge amount of work to help us be in a position to understand how to run as a trust club. Because just in case you guys didn't know, I think it was in the late 80s, early 90s, Brighton sold their ground and were promised to be put in a brand new, spanking new stadium, which didn't happen for like 10 or 15 years. So they were basically having to rent a football ground very similar to, I think it's Harrogate, where it's the athletics track is around the outside of the ground, and they used to play in the middle of the ground. They came and offered their advice for free to the club. Like we did a Fans United day at the racecourse where there was representation of the 92 English Football League teams at the time. But there was also Celtic came down, Rangers came down. There were teams from Europe whose supporters came to the game. Like the LDV Trophy final when we beat Southend United. Me and my mates were sitting together and we were sitting next to some Stoke supporters who had affiliation with the Wrexham manager at the time, Dennis Smith, but they wanted to see us survive. They came along to watch game of football, but put money in the bank accounts for Wrexham. And so many people did that. The trust guys, they came in, they did all the work, the amazing things. Yeah, probably they've held things a bit too long, but I think it's because of the mistrust that's been instilled from past owners that is the reason why they don't want to give everything straight away to Rob and Ryan, because there's that little niggle in the back of your head of probably every Wrexham supporter of how long are they going to do this for? They've said they're going to do it for a long time. I hope they do. But, and I think that's probably a Welsh and Wrexham thing, is always the but. And I think by having the supporters' trust still there, they do serve a purpose, and maybe they just need to transition into more of an advisory role where whatever their say is in matters does carry some weight rather than just a token thing. And I think that's what they're probably maybe waiting for, is that sort of middle ground to be met where they go, okay, well, we want to be at the table in any discussions with the club moving forward. And the only way we can do it at the moment is by being that little bit of a roadblock, maybe.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to get a little bit deep here for a second. It's a little bit out of character
I
for
thought we
me,
already
but
were deep.
We're already deep, mate.
I think I know I speak for a lot of people when I say this. For you guys that have come up through that era, through that time, thank you. If it wasn't for you guys, if it wasn't for people like yourselves, we would not have the club we enjoy today, the club that we love today, and getting into your own pockets, helping the club be run, keeping it surviving, and to the supporters trust as well, the wider supporters trust. I really, really mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for everything that you guys have done to keep
100%.
Wrexham alive.
Going off the back of that,
Oh,
that's such a Chris. You speak so well sometimes. Like, gets me in the feels. But honestly, like he what he says, I just reiterate. I can't put it as well as what Chris has put it, but I think this is why like these conversations need to happen is with the people who've been there from the beginning and people who've been there along the way. Of course, it's great to hear from new fans, and we've been experiencing that with the Americans and even ourselves. But it doesn't have the weight, our say or our opinion, as much as people have embraced us. I still weigh your opinion is gold, and we will always take what you say and what your experience with it is. So like we will take care of it, and whatever happens is we'll protect that. And I want to make sure that the club continues to do that and protects what's already there, which is, like you said, that fiery red passion, I guess, is a good way to put it. But just what you've put through is just incredible. So yeah, again, thank you.
Well, welcome along for the ride and good luck. And one thing I would say, I'm assuming neither of you have actually been to Wrexham. Is that right?
No, it's
Not
on the
yet.
books.
I'm
the
going
books.
to say will change your life forever.
That's
And
it.
don't forget to visit Queen's Park.
So the big question for you guys is obviously hoping to go to Wrexham and stuff, but you got to do the away games where there's no roof on a terrace and it's pissing it down in November.
Yeah.
You might question your choice of Wrexham at that point in time, but if you come out still going, you know what, like one of the games I went to was Brian Flynn's last game as manager of Wrexham, and we got absolutely hammered by Tranmere Rovers, which is never good anyway. And it's a horrible ground with horrible supporters, and we played horrible. And to top it all, we were stuck in the ground for an hour after the game. And me and my mates again were coming out, getting in the cars, going home. I'm never watching that pile of crap ever again. And then about 10 minutes down the road, you're like, in what game's at home next, or who's the next away team? And that's when you know you're sucked in, and that's when you know it's your team for life. And that's what it's been for me for Wrexham. Like the amount of times I've been rained on, got ill because of it being snowed on, being abused, being spat on, or whatever. And that's just the Wrexham supporters. It's in you forever. It's great, it's horrible, and it's everything in between.
And just maybe as a closing thing, my thing is I've only been over 3 times. It's always Christmas, right? Because that's when I can get away. So I've been back 3 times, and as I said, last time I went 8 games, all postponed, which was just
bloody hell.
It was telling you now. I still haven't got over it. But the time before that, I managed one away game, and I've never told John this story, but it was a Crewe, which is a local derby. And it was the only game on that day because it was an artificial surface, and it was -6 maximum. And I didn't have a ticket, so I said, I'm getting in. So I just rocked up to this game, and in my broad Aussie accent, I said to this policeman, "Where do I get a ticket?" And he said, "Well, see that Canadian over there? He's from Canada, and he ain't getting a ticket either." He was a real smart ass, this copper. But anyway, I ended up getting a ticket off someone, and it was in the away end. So I had to stand in the away end, and I had to be quiet because if I shouted I was from Wrexham, I got bloody punched. That's the difference too. Is the games over there? They're not like Aussie rules and rugby league games where you can chat to the bloke next door, right? It's serious stuff. So it's passionate. And I froze to death that day, and it was so packed in the ground, I had to move for the guy to take a corner. And that's my only away game in 50 years for Wrexham.
Bloody hell. That's so good. Oh, and I think you're right. Like that's what we want to experience. That's what we want to, when we go over. That's, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I can't wait to be in the new cop." And of course I want to do that too. But at the same time, I want to be in the Mould Road stand. I want to be I want to be I want to be amongst it. I want to be in the way. Hey?
You say that now, you'll be freezing your tits off, and then you go,
freezing the tits off. But and that's it, right? Like I don't know what I'm in for, but I think if we can get that experience, I want to tell a story like that. Remember when we got snowed on? Remember when it pissed down with rain and we maybe not lost, but I'd love to win it. But those are the stories that make it better. And like I'm a I was brought up on Aussie rules in terms of my family's from the town of the support Geelong. So the town of Geelong, you guys are aware of.
Yep.
So the way I look at it is I've got on my there you go, you can kind of see it. It's the bloody there. Where's my Geelong one? And then on this arm I've got my Wrexham one. And it's just the way, and that's how I look at it is those are the two communities. Those are the communities I live to be a part of, and I see the similarities, and I see that working class, and I want that. And I'm like, well, I've been to Geelong all my life, but I want to go down to Wrexham every week and experience that. So me and Chris have always made a joke, if we want to make a business of this, not because of anything monetary, nothing fame wise. It's just so we can live or be close to Wrexham, that we could just go there every week. That would be the dream.
And there's two things you probably need to learn how to do. One is drink a pint.
Oh yeah,
because Wrexham used to have more pubs per head of population than any other town in Britain, and also Wrexham brewed the beer for the Titanic, which I hope is not a foretelling. But anyway,
oh God, that's why we lost to Grimsby.
And they the town that brewed for Wrexham Fosters as well for England. So it's a brewing town. The other thing is you need to be able to sing.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that's what gets you. It's the atmosphere, don't you reckon, John?
Chris is done. Chris has checked out. He's done.
It's easy to sing when you're winning. It's more fun to sing when you're losing, and there's only about 5 of you in an away stand. That's what's great about lower league football in the UK, which you probably don't get in Australia so much. Is when you see people doing the conga in the away end and they're losing 5-0, just not giving a shit. Yeah, that's great, and that's been Wrexham for a long time.
You got to think up a funny song like "You Can't Score 6" or something. Like
yeah. All right, well, guys, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast today. I thank you guys so much for your time and
truly,
and your knowledge and wisdom of these stories have been fantastic. They've just absolutely had me captivated. So, thank you guys so much for coming on the pod. And we can't wait to come down to Sydney and visit you guys in the pub and get to know you guys better. That's for sure. And have you on again as well. Probably throughout the season
as well.
Again.
No worries. We've only told you a little bit about story, so I'm more than welcome to come back. And thanks for the opportunity to chat to you guys as well.
Opportunity's been great, and looking forward to catching up.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
And welcome to Wrexham.
That's it.
That was an absolute pleasure getting to talk to other people from Australia that are expatriates from Wrexham, and wow, like Mike and John, thank you so much for coming on our pod. That just before like that was really good and very enlightening. Very enlightening. What do you think, Adrian?
Oh yeah, I'm in a bit emotional about it all. Really, it's nice because like I think the hardest thing about what we do is we talk to people on the other side of the world, and as much as we relate to those people, it's hard because you feel that bit of disconnect. Well, these guys have lived through that disconnect. Mike talked about having to wait 3 weeks to get a result. That disconnect must be hard. So I just, like you said it, and you put it poignantly, is we thank them for, being such avid fans for so long and still accepting people like us who are, I guess, newer. So, it was just a great experience, and I look forward to having them on the pod again. And I look forward to going to York Lane and having a pint with them. What do you reckon?
Oh, fuck yeah. Cannot wait. We'll definitely do that. So, well, I know in a couple, what was it, in 10 hours time, we will have the very first game against Chelsea. Very, very much looking forward to that. So,
gonna be great.
That's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. So we'll see how our boys fare against pretty much a full strength Chelsea team. Yep. I have every faith in them. I know they won't let us down. So they're going to go out there and give it their all. So
that's for sure.
That's what I'm hoping for. So Adrian, we have a good artist now to pay tribute to. One that is very well known within the Wrexham AFC circles, and
Here we
a lot of
go.
people know the chants, and a lot of them come from this person. So today we're actually going to pay tribute to Wrockin Wrobin.
It's rocking with a W, isn't it?
Yes, yes, with a W. So I I'll just say Wrockin Wrobin. And they're actually got they've allowed us to play a song called "On Our Way," which is one of the Wrexham chants, which is really, I think, really fitting for this episode. They, I'll give you an exclusive though. Wrockin Wrobin is releasing a brand new single, brand new. So in I think in about a week's time, a new
Yeah,
single called "Back in the Football League" will be out. So it should be about this time next week. It'll be coming out, and we you heard it here first. we will we will try and have Wrockin Wrobin on the pod at some stage as well, and
for sure.
to celebrate that new single. And yeah, hopefully this turns into another chant. I don't know what to expect, but we'll see. I mean, Wrockin Wrobin and on our little old pod.
Little old pod. It's growing, buddy. It's growing. And thank you, Rockin Robin, for allowing us to play your music. Yeah. When Chris told me we had that big news, I was like, oh wow, okay, right. We're going places. Like this is it. So I'm excited to hear it.
All right, Adrian, it's been a pleasure again. Um, until next week, remember, get your merch, visit twobeardsmedia.com, be a patron, subscribe, like, share, whatever you can do to help us. We're forever appreciative. We do not take it for granted. So please get out there, spread the word. And without further ado, here is Wrockin Wrobin on our way. Goodbye, guys.